Everybody, welcome to our weekly fantasy football thing. We promised we'd be a little bit more consistent on being here every week, and I think we're going to stick to that. Me and Richie are here today. We're a little bit early according to schedule, but scheduling wise, we kind of had to squeeze it in. And anybody who's able to hop on early, more than welcome to participate in chat. We're going to be as active as possible as we can be. And yeah, we're just going to kind of kick it off and get started. Richie, I thought we would do the best things to review, I think, from last week. Some of our recommendations. I have a few of mine written down. Ty Chandler is still a question mark, really, because we haven't seen Minnesota play. Juju Smith's still a question mark because we haven't seen Kansas City play, as they're all both on buys. But Tyrone Tracy, a huge plus, I think. He had about 45 yards and a touchdown for the Giants. I think that's going to keep going. I think regardless of what we see from Devin Singletary, we're going to see some split backfield, right? Split backfield carries for the Giants. So I think that one's going to kind of be a good investment. Jalen Tolbert on the Cowboys was not terrible, not great. It was about 4 catches for 45 yards, probably got you about 10 points, give or take. If you had to do somebody in like a 12-team or a 16-team league and your 10 points, you probably were okay. I mean, I had Marvin Harrison and Chris Olave, so you did better than me. With my negative points on those two guys. And then my big stardom for the week that I kind of predicted out there, Tank Dell. I think he had about 75 yards and a tutty. That's probably 17, 20 points for your league. So I'm proud of my little pats on back there. And that's enough of kissing my own ass, and I'm ready to move on. How about you? Any pats on your own back?
Well, I was happy to be able to pick up Caleb in 2 leagues last week, and so that was awesome. I was happy about that. I was high on Jalen Tolbert last week, and I was like, he ended up getting me 8 or 10 points or whatever. So I took your Tyrone Tracy pick idea, and that worked out. Just a little side note, I was so impressed with that pick. I was like, man, what other teams have injury-prone running backs that there's some guy in back that could step up? And that was after our show, obviously, last week. And then I saw Gus Edwards and Dobbins on the Chargers, and I was like, who's behind them? Kamani Vidal, and Gus Edwards was injured. What happened? Kamani Vidal put up some points last week. How many was it? I remember. Anyways, Kamani Vidal. If you find him, if there's any injury in front of him on the depth chart, go do it.
Man, for me, Richie, that's kind of been my mantra. I had 1 year where I drafted running backs first and second and third rounds. I forget what it was. It was 4 or 5 years ago. And I was absolutely hamstrung. I think it was Christian McCaffrey and LaShawn McCoy. I somehow got both of them. And that was the year they both got hurt. And I was just my first two rounds of my draft were basically useless for 8 weeks. And then every time I did it, somebody would pick up their backup and just dominate with my guys that I needed because I didn't handcuff myself at the time. Mm-hmm. And I think that was my lesson on running backs. And I think yet again, just to talk about what we know and what we've been suggesting, or were we back when Brandon was still on with us? We literally said the name Tank Bigsby, for Christ's sake. Mm-hmm. And Travis Etienne hasn't played a game in 2 weeks, and he's probably not going to play next week. And he's either hurt or it's one of those he's hurt, wink, wink, benching, mm-hmm. wink, wink. Just play Tank Bigsby. We said the name Tank Bigsby. We said the name Roschon Johnson. Roschon Johnson's giving you points every week right now. It's not intelligent to go for these top tier running backs that end up getting hurt. And even for you, I know you loved running back on the Vikings from former Packer Aaron Jones, and and I still think that was a great suggestion at the beginning of the year for you, but here it is. Here we are, week 6, and we're already talking about Ty Chandler as the starting running back in Minnesota because we don't know where Aaron Jones is at. So yeah, Aaron Jones wasn't the best example because he's probably getting picked up in the 3rd round, but you just got to future proof and look ahead, man. If you're looking for running backs in fantasy football, wide receivers are guys that you can start week to week. Running backs, dude, who knows? Christian McCaffrey, first, second pick in most people's draft, and you haven't been able to start him for 7, 8, 10 weeks. It's just what you should do. You should get backup running backs for injury-prone players. Frankly, right now, I don't even think that Justice Hill is a bad investment for long-term because you never know. Any team that runs the ball heavily is just more injury-prone. Kamara. I don't even know who Kamara's backup is right now, but I would probably invest in him because right now the Saints are less and less likely to pass the ball. They're going to be more and more likely to run the ball. And who knows? Kamara could have like a little 2-week stinger, and you're probably going to have the best running back in the NFC South for a week or two. It's just future proofing. It's smart moves. So we've been pretty good on future predictions. I think specifically last week when we were talking about a trade, and I have those trades written down here, we were talking about somebody giving up Devontae Adams in a trade, and we said don't do it. And why do we say do it? Because we said he's probably not going to be on the team very long. You don't have to worry about Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew. And sure enough, today's news, Devontae Adams is with Aaron Rodgers, and all of a sudden he's probably the number one target in New York, New Jersey. And now you have a top-tier wide receiver because you were patient, and that probably worked out. As well as Amari Cooper. Man, whoever got Amari Cooper late, damn, I'm jealous because I wish for him like a week ago. Because now you have Josh Allen's number one target. Damn, that's a good investment. So patience and future-proofing, man, that's what fantasy football is kind of all about. And today we had really good examples of it with Amari Cooper, Devontae Adams.
Yeah, man. You're totally right that you need to future-proof, but once in a while, you're in a league where you just don't have that many injuries on your team. That's very rare, but I've had that happen where it's like, what? My first 4 or 5 round picks, they might win the league for me. So the drafting
and that's
is still
great. Yeah, that's still great. Drafting is still key, but let's be honest, like almost no one in the league ends up with the – I'd love to see somebody with snapshots at the beginning of their draft and what their week 1 starting team was and then their championship team. And I bet you at least 5 names are different.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yep. And cool. And that's why like availability is key. That's why I was high on Jaden Reed in the beginning of the year because he was always a dog. Like he was dinged up. You know, you would get dinged up and come back in the game typically, and that's exactly what happened this past weekend too. And you wanted him in your lineup last week, so yeah.
I would say right now Jaden Reed's value is probably the lowest it's been because now you're going to see Jordan Love possibly spread the ball around because we just saw touchdowns from Dobbs and Watson last week. So I love your Jaden Reed pick. I would say right now maybe he's a sell high guy because you never know what's going on with the Packers. I just don't really follow the Packers well enough to know if Jaden Reed is getting those targets and stuff like that and those catches and those points per game for PPR leagues. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe you can give me more of that. But I do have some comments we'd love to address. We traded Smitty and Javante. I don't know who Smitty is. Smitty?
Which Smith? There's a Smith somewhere.
Right. Smitty.
Hang on.
And for Taylor. And who's Javante? Javante Williams, the running back?
No, it could be Devonta Smith. It could be Devonta Smith or Juju Smith-Schuster or Jackson Smith and Jigba or Jonnu Smith.
Yep. Nope, you nailed it. It was Devonta Smith.
Okay.
Devonta Smith, and then I'm assuming that's Javante Williams. That's a pretty mediocre player. For Taylor, Jonathan Taylor. Yeah, that's a great pickup.
Take
that's
Taylor.
That's a great pickup. Well, I think he's already saying he's traded for it, and that's really good. Needed a running back and still a wide receiver. That's a really great trade because Jonathan Taylor is going to be – I don't see them moving off of Joe Flacco anytime soon because Anthony Richardson was basically a healthy scratch. And as unfortunate as it is for the Colts, that's a good thing for Jonathan Taylor fantasy owners because they're going to run the shit out of that ball and do play action. Joe Flacco, by the way, pick him up in fantasy if you need a quarterback because – currently in the NFL, there is not a single quarterback that has more consistent weeks with 2 touchdowns per game than Joe Flacco going back into last season. Joe Flacco has 2 touchdowns for 9 straight weeks. No other quarterback has that. So really, really consistent backup quarterback and or starter for you if you need one with Joe Flacco. So great trade, man. Yeah, good for you. See if you can, if you got some good, that's a hardcore RB1. Good stuff. Starting Kenneth Walker and Kamara starting, but I also have J.K. Dobbins on the bench, and I'm not sure if I should start him. What do y'all think? Depends on who's your flex positions and how deep you are at wide receiver. I am a person who tends to start 3 wide receivers, and I pick and choose 2 running backs per week. Running back is much more fickle than wide receivers, especially in a PPR league, because you can have a PPR wide receiver who gets 6 catches for 40 yards, and that's a good 11, 12 points. That's just consistent. With running backs most of the time, unless they're a good pass-catching running back, and the way running backs are used in the NFL now, They're mostly split carry backs. They're mostly sharing the load. It's so hard to predict, even if it's like a legitimate starter. Like a guy like Derrick Henry, you better hope he has a really good running game, because Justice Hill's going to get all the catches from him. So he's not like a dual threat running back. Like if Derrick Henry gets you like 60 yards and no touchdowns, probably not doing that great, but it's realistic depending on the matchup. Not maybe with Baltimore this year, but depends on what you think, man. Kenneth Walker is definitely a Charbonnet split kind of guy. Kamara is your number one. Me personally, I would put Dobbins and Kamara in, and I would probably have Kenneth Walker as my flex potentially on my week-to-week basis. And also, I don't think the Seattle offense is showing signs of improvement. I think they're showing a bit of chaos brewing. I think Seattle's on the downturn rather than the upturn. And then I have Drake London at the flex, is Ryug saying. So that's a solid flex, man. Me personally, I don't know, Richie, do you have any opinions on that trio? I would start Kamara and J.K. Dobbins.
Personally, I'm sticking with Walker and Kamara. They're a little bit more not dependent on who they face. Dobbins, if he's facing like a really tough defense, it makes me question as to whether or not I should start him. That's been a good formula this year so far. So me personally, it's tough. You're really judging between Dobbins and London. And let's see. David likes London, and that's David's usually good for good recommendations, but let's see here. London's doing well this season. I think
the Falcons are hitting a stride too. I think he's just going to be a catch machine. I think he's a PPR guy. I think you're going to see at least 6 catches per game with a guy like Drake London, which is just so consistent. Even if it's for 40 yards, like I said, excuse me, 6 catches for 40 yards is 12 points.
Even though I like Dobbins, I think it's right in this scenario to have him on the bench where you have Walker and Kamara and London and the flex spot. So, yeah.
Oh, excuse me. I was getting over a little cold. You just decided to keep DJ Moore over Devontae Smith just based on how well Caleb has looked recently. Still have Amon-Ra Evans. Dude, you're loaded. You're loaded, and if DJ Moore is your third even option, I would start DJ Moore over T. Higgins at this rate. But even if that's like your third option, dude, you're set for the year and you're loaded. So yeah, I would take the uptick of Caleb versus the clear just chaos brewing in Philly right now. Philly's going to absolutely implode in the next like 3 to 4 weeks, I would say. But yeah, that's definitely the right call, even regardless
that's a David prediction.
AJ Brown.
Those are the predictions where it's like he sees the trend, and right now he's saying Philly's going to implode in 3 to 4 weeks. And in my head, I'm like, I think that might happen. Now that he mentions it, it sounds about right, you know? So.
Oh, the Philly implosion is coming. I mean, I think not to make fun of people for their mental health, but I think genuinely Nick Sirianni is not well. I think he's kind of losing it. And that team's either going to have a mid-year coaching change, which will give them an uptick. But if they keep coasting on mid-level stuff, you're just going to see a steady decline, and it's going to be a catastrophe in the next 3 to 4 weeks. Whereas I think the Bears, even if they have some stinkers upcoming, Washington, Arizona, New England, and I want to say San Fran, I see that's like a 2-2. If you're lucky, it's a 3-1. I still think the things you've seen from Caleb Williams are not dependent on defenses. You can't make throws right over a linebacker's hand into a perfect little slot fade and just say that that's because you were playing a bad defense. Linebackers are linebackers. Everyone's got linebackers. If you can position that ball and take advantage of mismatches and opportunities, if you could throw like fades off the corner of the end zone, you can take advantage of switch routes on 3 wide on the one side and make Cole Kmet look open. Even if Cole Kmet's not open, he's covered on the top side. You have your underneath route. It's all good, man. The guy's a stud. I could talk all day about Caleb, but yeah, he's looking good, and I would take a DJ Moore. I think DJ Moore is going to give you like another crazy 2-touchdown game. He's going to feed him eventually, game to game. And should I do this trade in a full PPR? Chubb and Sutton. So Chubb and Cortland Sutton. Sutton, man, I wish he was traded for somebody because goddamn, he would be so good on any other team. But unfortunately, he's a Bronco. And Tank Dell, you have Jordan Mason, Walker, Kenneth Walker, Devon Achane at running back. Why my receivers are very bad with Mike Evans, Christian Kirk, and Josh Downs. You are between a rock and a hard place, my friend. It's not a terrible trade because even with Bradley Chubb, I think just by example today, the Browns have basically said they're saying fuck this season. With the Amari Cooper trade, I wouldn't be surprised with like a Joel Bitonio trade from the offensive line. See Myles Garrett, man. I don't think it's crazy to think that a contender trades for Myles Garrett. It's 28, almost 29 years old. You're going to hit a hard reset with Cleveland. As of yesterday, I was talking with Paulie on our full show, and I didn't believe that Cleveland was going to hit a reset, nor Dallas. But I think today was the signs of the teams hitting resets quickly, and that's the Raiders and that's the Browns, and they may be doing resets. And I think Dallas might join them, but I think Jerry Jones' arrogance will prevent that. That's a long way of me saying, yeah, trade Chubb. It looks ugly when you say it, and especially if you're in some sort of like keeper league. Chubb is not going to get you much this season, even if he comes back, I don't think. Sutton, while I think he's a stud, I think he's stuck with Bo Nix. Like Sutton, if he was traded, dude, or if he was on the trade block, and then you end up trading him, and he goes to like the Chiefs or something, as some crazy trade to like Baltimore, you're gonna regret it bad. I don't know if Sutton's on the trade block, but I know he's cheap and people like him. But Juju and Tank Dell for the next 5 weeks will help you carry your receiver position. Yeah. So I'm going to say, should I do this trade? I'm going to give you 2 thumbs up. You should do that trade. Chubb and Sutton for Juju and Tank Dell. Depends on how desperate you are for receiver. Because Juju I don't know if anybody's getting healthy on Kansas City. I guess not. But Juju, as long as he stays healthy, he's going to get 5 catches, maybe a game. Tank Dell, until Nico Collins gets off IR, is going to be an absolute stud. So right now, you are giving yourself 5 to 6 weeks of massive improvement at wide receiver. You could easily put in Mike Evans, Tank Dell, rotate Juju / Josh Downs, and just watch that waiver wire because you're not really losing anything at running back. And Cortland Sutton's not going to get you much. He might have a good game here and there, but he's just trapped with Bo Nix, and there's nothing you can do about it. Richie, any opinion on that?
Yeah, man, the big question mark here is Chubb. Like, how does he do when he comes back? And the thing is, we can't predict the future. Chubb or Sutton could be traded, you know? We don't know. Chubb could be traded to a better team. But as of right now, based on the teams that they're at, I would take this trade. I would take Juju and Tank Dell. And, you know, maybe we don't know how Chubb returns either. This is a, second major knee injury? It's a tough situation. I say take the 2 really productive players over 2 question mark players, definitely. Yeah. Take Juju and Tank. Yep.
Our biggest hesitation by far is like both of them are kind of trade bait. And so if they end up on better teams, we can't predict that because who the fuck knows what NFL trade crazy shit happens. But that's your biggest hesitation is like, are you going to hold on to them with the hopes of them being traded? Because if you do and then they stay on their teams, they're going to suck for you the rest of the year. So yeah, I don't know. That's my opinion. Yeah. So, this question I'm going to have to check Ryugi. I'm going to have to check at what teams, generally speaking, are available on defense because my league is pretty up to date. I'm picking guys up. Honestly, dude, if your Bears are on a bye week, go with a matchup. Honestly, whoever the Browns are playing this week, you can just probably take them and feel pretty good about it. You could probably pick up the Rams defense if they're available. The Rams are playing the Raiders, and then the Raiders just lost Devontae Adams. That's going to be an absolute dumpster fire. Cincinnati's defense is probably available in your league. Cincinnati's defense is, I think, a little overrated, but they're going to be playing the Browns, and they are in a must-win mode, and the Browns are giving up. Pick up, I would say, if you need to have a flyer defense for 1 week, if you're looking for a long-term defense, I can't really help you there. Wow, Detroit's defense is available in my league for some reason, but I guess they're just not that good. They give up a lot of points, but Aiden Hutchinson being out is going to really destroy that value. Dude, go with and I'm gonna be very steadfast on this. Go with either the Rams or the Bengals this week for 1 week, and it just depends who you like better. I almost would prefer the Ram. No, I like them both. I don't know. Any opinion?
Yeah, man. I've drafted the Baltimore defense pretty heavily, and the first 6 weeks has been pretty rough with them. They've faced a lot of good teams. If I had to just like pick guys that I think would be on the waiver wire, it's like I guess Denver is playing New Orleans this week. I was able to pick up Pittsburgh in preparation, like for another team last week. The Eagles, they're not bad to stream against bad teams. The Eagles might be available, and they face the Giants next week. So look for the Eagles. Definitely look for the Steelers. I saw the Steelers on the waiver wire. I was like, yeah. So like David said, Bengals. So far we have Steelers, Bengals, Eagles. I'm kind of iffy on my Broncos pick. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, just do a flyer on one of those teams. Play a matchup of a shitty offense, really. That's all you can do on flyer weeks. And then next question before we kind of move on.
1, 2, 12,
Throw out your questions, by the way, guys. This one's really hard for me to understand. So if Taco, you're still watching, maybe you can simplify it a little. Got offered Christian McCaffrey for James Conner and George Pickens. Thoughts? I have Hurts, Connor Dobbins, St. Brown, AJB, Laporta, Jordan Mason, benches Hunt, Pickens, Worthy, Algier, Benson, etc. My personal opinion, 4-2, you're not good enough. If you were 6-0, you really were just like future planning and getting CMC. If there's such a thing as negative confidence in CMC, that's what I have. I have 0 to negative confidence, even moving forward towards the end of the season, because I think San Francisco is 2-4, if I'm not mistaken. And San Francisco is like 2 more losses away from just packing it up, I would say. Even if CMC comes back, what are you getting out of? They're not doing a playoff push here. And then CMC is probably either going to rest up and come back reloaded for next week, or I think San Francisco's blowing it up if they're like 2-6 or 3-7 or 2-6 or 3-5. I think San Francisco's blowing it up. So just don't. I think this is a weird year for San Francisco. They're 3-3. I'm sorry, I stand corrected. San Francisco's next few opponents, though. Oh Jesus, Kansas City. Yeah, that's a loss. And then you've got Dallas, that's probably a win, and then a bye, and then Tampa. I don't know, man. CMC, follow your articles and see what you think. Personally, I think James Conner is going to be consistent for the rest of the year, and I think Russell Wilson will make George Pickens better. I think Justin Fields is just not good for fantasy receivers. This is me being really negative on CMC, though. Somebody who likes CMC and likes the future planning of him easily could say yes, and they would like it. For your team, you get rid of Connor. I mean, I guess you're not downgrading that hard. Your starting lineup would be like Dobbins, and then Kareem Hunt, Tyler Algier on week-to-week basis, and then same. Who's AJB?
AJ Brown, probably.
Oh, AJ Brown, yeah. Same Brown. You're loaded at receiver. I guess, but you're an injury away from needing Pickens hardcore. Laporta is literally just scored his first touchdown. I think you're right in the middle, dude, where I don't think you should touch it. You're too early to make trades. See if you're like 5-2, 6-2, then you can start getting frisky and planning for playoff runs. Right now, go with the girl that took you there and kind of ride this team out for a little. It's a super solid team, and that's sometimes that's so much more important for fantasy than having like top heavy players, because I've had that in the past, and then I get bounced in the first round, and then because the top heavy guys just don't perform in like week 1 or week 2 of your playoff, and then you're screwed. And then the guy who just had like the most solid team in the league wins that year. And that happened to my league last year. So I don't know, man. This is like a 51-49 for me, leaning to say no.
Yeah. Like, one, the thing that pops out to me is Hunt. You have Kareem Hunt on the bench. Nice. Good for you. He should be good. But the big thing here is Christian McCaffrey. If we knew when he was going to return, that would make things easier. We have no idea when he's going to return. He's got Achilles tendonitis, What's that?
If at all.
Like, really, the 49ers are in a holding pattern and would only, if they would like to save him for the playoffs, that's what they would like to do, and just win and get to the playoffs and then play him, If it starts to get dire, if they keep staying about 500 or, they dip below 500, they're going to start thinking about activating them, So it's kind of hard to call that. Basically, this guy wants some production right now. He wants Connor and Pickens. Like, it's just really hard to tell, we don't know when Christian McCaffrey is going to come back. He could come back in 3 weeks. Who knows? He can come back in 2 weeks, He's not, is he on injured reserve even?
Oh, yeah.
Is he still technically on injured reserve? Okay.
Mm-hmm. My positives and my negatives whenever I review a trade is like, what direction does it take your team, like short-term versus long-term? Like trading for CMC is super planning for the future. But let's say it's only 4-2. You're only 6 weeks into fantasy football. Dude, you could end up being the worst team in your league at 4-2. No offense. And now you have Hurts, who is mediocre as fuck, maybe decent in fantasy. But then let's say you've got your starters going Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins is the first season he's ever finished, or mediocrely. You have Kareem Hunt, who is the 4th choice at running back for Kansas City. You have Laporta. Like, these guys might, without Connor and Pickens, you might not get to the playoffs. And then what did Christian McCaffrey do for you? So that's why I'm saying, like, you have a solid team that will consistently get you good points. It's a really hard trade to say no to. I would say no, though. Because, that's what the guy, like, think about what the person's doing for you. They need production now, and they're like, CMC is fucking useless. And he is fucking useless for at least 4 more weeks, I would say. Because they're not going to play him in the next 2 to 3 because they have 2 more games than a bye. Let's say best case scenario, week 10 is when you see Christian McCaffrey. Like, you could lose 2 to 3 games by then. And then you're 4-5. I don't know, dude. Mm-hmm. I'd say keep chugging it out. If they still want to do that trade later, great. If not, like, are you really going to be that upset that you didn't get Christian McCaffrey? I don't know.
Just for the possibility that CMC doesn't come back until the playoffs, I'm going to say no for now. Like, as soon as there's a better timetable, and So, yeah.
If there was literally, if you just knew for a fact, like San Francisco came out and was like, week 10 after the bye, he's definitely back, I'd be like, yep, do this trade. You can make it do for 2 to 3 weeks, but you have no idea. So I would say I would not risk that. But yeah, so Richie, thank you for everybody participating. Like, we love kind of going into the chats and breaking down hypotheticals, but going through a few of these games that we're seeing, just week to week, and players that of notice or players to avoid. We got Thursday Night Football, Broncos at Saints. Any thoughts on Broncos at Saints if you wanted to start? If not, I can get started on that one. Any players you'd like for that matchup, players to avoid?
The Broncos are in a mode where they're like, hey, yeah, we still have a season, and like Bo Nix is playing scrappily, Bo Nix looks okay. Javonte Williams hasn't done anything so far this year. And that's unfortunate because I have to admit I haven't watched any tape on him, but anytime I watch him, he's looked like a beast. So I don't know what's happening over there right now.
I think it's a Bo Nix problem. Just to give you the statistics for the season, the Broncos have 4 rushing touchdowns on the season. 3 of them are Bo Nix. And Bo Nix is almost the team's leading rusher in terms of yardage. So I think it's just a problem with the line / just the running system. So I agree with you, though.
Sean Payton must just be like, yo, we're going to get Bo Nix up to speed this year and hope that they're ready next year. I think that's what they're doing. So
maybe like a wasted year kind of thing. But yeah. On the Broncos side, I don't have any suggestions for you. Start whoever you may need to if you have like a starting position. Cortland Sutton before last week had 1 touchdown on the year and only 250 yards. I just don't think that anybody. Bo Nix honestly might be your best fantasy player on that team. I do feel like a little bit of a Broncos revenge game. I think Sean Payton's going to throw the kitchen sink and get creative, which even more leads to like some crazy trickery and some trick plays and nonsense that will not necessarily dictate any traditional fantasy outcomes. From the Saints side, I have a big one, and we're probably going to be in a very similar situation. What do you got for the Saints?
Well, I mean, other than the normal guys like Kamara, Olave, and Shaheed, like maybe Juwan Johnson, but yeah, that's who do you got for the Saints?
My thought is get Juwan Johnson off the bench if you don't have him already. He's definitely free, available in your league, almost certainly. The Saints like to throw the ball. Chris Olave had a concussion and he's in protocol. It's a Thursday game. I highly, highly doubt they're going to clear him by Thursday to start. So Juwan Johnson's going to see a majority of the shares. If you need somebody for 1 week, Fabian Moreau is actually a pretty damn good tight end this year. He's got 2 touchdowns, he's got like 200 yards or 150 yards. So he might be your touchdown flyer. Definitely start Shaheed. Pick up Johnson if you need him for like a flyer wide receiver. But other than that, I think they're just going to be a better offense, generally speaking, with Spencer Rattler and more consistent. And you're going to see shorter throws. So PPR leagues, for sure, you're going to want to do like Juwan Johnson, Rashid Shaheed. Deep balls for Rashid Shaheed with Derek Carr. But I think on a day-to-day basis, you're going to see more PPR results with the Saints with Spencer Rattler, shorter underneath throws, much more to Kamara. I'm jealous of Kamara owners right now. Probably rocks having such a consistent running back. But that's what I think about that game. Any other comments?
Not for me.
Me neither. Patriots, Jags. London, baby.
Yeah. Ramondre Stevenson, I think he's going to do well.
I do too.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anybody there on the offense that Drake May improves. Their receivers are just absolutely irrelevant. Maybe Hunter Henry, if you need a tight end really, really badly, you can start taking him in like the backside of your free agency pickups. I got nothing else to add on the Patriots. There's really nothing there.
Yeah, I'm picking up Hunter Henry this week already. Like I have the waiver wire in already, just because like my tight end's on bye, so Cole Kmet's on bye, so I needed someone I'm picking up.
There you go, smart move. Yep. So and then on the Jags side, I think Trevor Lawrence is broken at this point in the season. I think the Jags are. You want to talk about a collapse? If they weren't in London for one more week, I guarantee Doug Peterson isn't flying home with the team. They're just not about to fire their coach while they're in London for back-to-back weeks. I think regardless of the outcome, I think Doug Peterson's fired after next week. So just that offense might be a catastrophe. Tank Bigsby is obviously, if you have him, you're lucky. You probably already have him. Brian Thomas Jr. is always a solid start. Christian Kirk's mediocre. Gabe Davis, mediocre. And then I've been stashing Evan Ingram. I'm so happy he's back. I didn't start him because I didn't know what he was capable of. And then son of a bitch gives me 20 points on my bench. So I'm an idiot. But I don't know if I'm an idiot. I don't know if you want to start a guy off his injury first week, but whatever. Evan Ingram's going to be a top 5 tight end this year.
It's actually like the name I look forward to the most out of all the Jags that you listed there. So, yeah, I also had him stashed. So, yeah.
Nice. Seahawks, Falcons. You can start on that one because this is a good one for fantasy.
So you're not very high on Kenneth Walker. I think Kenneth Walker is going to do just fine this game. Aside from the normal names, I don't know what else to say. I mean, you're going to have Kirk Cousins passing a lot. You're going to have Drake London putting up at least 17 points in fantasy football. Bijan Robinson finally had a 20-point game last week, so that's going to be good. On the Seahawks side, DK Metcalf has been a stinker for me this year. I've been waiting for him. Yeah, that's what I've got so far.
Ironically enough, DK Metcalf has almost like 500 yards through 6 games, which is insane because I think he's done it all in like 2.5 games. And then he has 2 touchdowns. Yeah, he's just not producing touchdowns. So I think like more than anything, it's a Geno Smith problem. I'm not low on Kenneth Walker. I just don't really know if I've seen enough year to year, week to week for him to be a stud. Fantasy wise, he has great stats: 250 yards, 5 yards a carry, and 5 touchdowns on the season. That's amazing. Yeah, so like definitely start Kenneth Walker. I just wouldn't be scared of having Zach Charbonnet like on a flyer as your third running back because I'm gonna have to do that this week because I got some injuries. But on the Falcons side,
definitely has Charbonnet as a handcuff, 100%.
Yeah,
Walker gets hurt for a game here and there every year, so have Charbonnet. Yeah.
Yeah. Cousins is doing great. If you have anybody on the Falcons, I think I'd be pretty confident starting them at this point, including Darnell Mooney, because Darnell Mooney and Drake London have almost identical stats, and everybody's raving about Drake London. They have almost identical stats for the season. So for sure, start London, start Mooney. I would even argue at this point, start Kyle Pitts. I would if I had no other options. And Algier is having a absolute dud of a year. Well, not really. Pretty close, but he's just not getting the touchdowns, and he's not being the goal line back that I think we expected him to and start vulturing touchdowns. But I think across the board, Seahawks, Falcons, I think this over-under is 52 points. Fuck yeah, dude. Start everybody. If you got one, start them.
I don't trust the Seahawks to be able to for that over.
I'm with you.
Yeah. So
if there's a team I trust more in that matchup, it's definitely the Falcons. Titans, Bills. Titans and Will Levis at this point are a sit-em. Tony Pollard is sneaky one of the best fantasy backs in fantasy this year.
Bills defense.
Keep starting. And Bills defense, are they that good though?
They're not that good. They're doing fine, and they're gonna hit them up. They're gonna hit the Titans up.
Yeah. And then we got DeAndre. Every receiver is a sit, including Calvin Ridley. I would, honest to God, if you could get anything for Calvin Ridley, trade him or drop him right now. You're probably ready to move on. And then on the Bills side, God damn it, whoever had Amari Cooper, you just lucked out. Maybe not this season, maybe not this week, but over the season, you just got like a top 10 wide receiver. That's such a good pickup for them. It's not even funny. I think Amari Cooper still has a shitload left in the tank. And everybody else is good to go.
Again? For the Bills, for pass catchers, they were relying on their tight
Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox. I mean, that's the problem, is there was no really number one guy at all, and it's going to make everybody else better, I think. It's going to be very much a Stephon Diggs. Amari Cooper has 9 catches a game, which makes everybody else have like 4 to 5 more consistently. Mm-hmm. I think eventually, this is going to make, because Josh Allen, despite being awesome this year, and he should still be fucking MVP, you know what Josh Allen's season stat line is?
What is it?
10 touchdowns, no picks.
Yep. That's pretty
Josh Allen, Mr. Josh Allen, Mr. throws a pick every fucking week. 0 picks on the year, 10 touchdowns, and then rushing, son of a bitch, has another 3. Guy's got 13 touchdowns, no picks. Madman. Absolutely
honestly,
madman. Should be.
So I just looked at Buffalo's depth, and they were giving snaps to Mac Hollins, and I was hearing that Buffalo's receivers are having trouble getting separations, and I'm like, that explains it. They have Mac Hollins, and maybe Keon Coleman is still coming along as a rookie, that instantly upgrades their entire room. So Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir. Yeah, Khalil Shakir. They're both going to benefit a lot, and they're from that arrival, definitely. So yeah.
Yeah, and then I would just say keep an eye on James Cook. Ray Davis is the backup, so you might pick up Ray Davis. Ray Davis, even in like sharing load, has just about half the stats as James Cook this season. James Cook only missed 1 game. He's only got 300 yards in the season. I love James Cook. I think he's a good dual threat back. He's still a number 1 back because he catches a ball a lot on like screens and flares and stuff. So he's still number 1, but purely rushing, not that impressive. And Ray Davis might be a decent pickup for you if he doesn't start, because he's got a turf toe. Turf toe is like, if you've ever had one or follow the league, dude, you could be fine with turf toe. You think you're on the upswing, and then all of a sudden it's like Wednesday, and then just like somebody steps on your toe, and then you're out for the game again. So just keep an eye on that.
We have a chat
Bengals,
question.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Pick 3, Aaron Jones, Mason Hubbard or Hunt for this week.
Hubbard's out. Just
Chuba
like
Hubbard,
if Aaron Jones is healthy, it's Hubbard that's out. So
yeah, that's an easy one, because Chuba Hubbard is playing Washington too. And I think Washington's just going to absolutely also consider every time when you got to consider matchups and stuff, dude. Let's say Washington goes up 10, 13 points real quick, right? It's 13-0. What's going to happen? Chuba Hubbard is going to stop running the ball by halftime. He might get some screens. He might get some passes, but overall, you're going to stop running the ball if you're Carolina. And then I think that is going to be exactly the game script. So Washington goes up like 13, 14 points within the first quarter. And then Andy Dalton's going to have like 40 passes that game. And then Chuba Hubbard's not going to even see that ball. Kareem Hunt's going to see the ball. Mason's going to see the shit out of the ball. Aaron Jones is a 50-50 just because you don't know if he's healthy, Ty Chandler and all that. But, yeah, as long as Aaron Jones says he's healthy, you got to start him. You can't not.
Are you still there, David? Oh, you skipped out for a second. Okay, cool. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
I just looked at Hubbard's stat line, and his stat line is actually much better than I was expecting. I was like, holy shit.
No, he's doing pretty solid.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about full-on game script. Chuba Hubbard's having a great season. 5-6 carries, 500 yards for the season. He's
getting used a lot. Like
he also has just as many fumbles as he does touchdowns. So.
Okay. There's a good chance we don't know if Aaron Jones is totally out. I don't remember if he has a concussion or a knee injury. I thought it was a hip.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think you're in a good spot for it. If I have to choose one,
I'm leaning towards Hubbard right now.
I'm leaning away from Jones now. Because if Jones comes back with a hip injury, they might just shy away from using him as much too. Like Hubbard's looking good.
Sorry to confuse you, bro. Sorry to confuse you. I think you gotta go with Hubbard, Mason, Hunt.
Yeah.
Because Aaron Jones is too risky. But
I'm glad we stopped that, and I was like, damn,
honestly, dude, trade one of those guys if you can.
See if you can trade up.
If you need a position somewhere, dude, that's 4 solid ass names that you could probably trade one for. But yeah, don't get married to any one of them. Sell high on Kareem Hunt or something. Or get rid of Jordan Mason, knowing that if you think that Christian McCaffrey's coming back anytime soon. But Bengals, Browns, avoid every single Brown. And that's legitimately, and I'm not exaggerating. Like sometimes I say that in jest and then I don't mean it. No, I really mean it. Don't start a single Brown. Yeah. Not Jerome Ford, not Jerry Jeudy, none of them.
Even if Chubb wasn't injured, like even if this was pre-injury Chubb from last year, like still no, because they're just going to key on the run the whole game. Yeah. So
there's just nothing there for you. Bengals wise, Burrow's killing it. Again. Burrow's fine. I think he's not even healthy and he's doing great. Next year is when Burrow's going to be incredible. This year he's chugging along. Jamar Chase is a stud. Everybody else is mediocre, I would say. Even to me, T. Higgins is kind of being overhyped for one good game. On the season, he's only got like 250 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he did most of that in one game. The big one that I would say is if he's available, Andre Iasovius, or however you say that, Iasovis, Isoviz, whatever, he is a sneaky slot that I think is going to get in there. He almost has just as many yards as T. Higgins on the season, and he has more touchdowns. So if he's probably available in your league, which he probably is, you're one injury away from that guy having absolutely crazy stats for the rest of the season. But I would just watch out for that. The running back situation is such a clusterfuck that either one that you're stuck to, you're handcuffed because they have almost identical stats in every possible way. Rush attempts, rush yards, rush touchdowns. They're both pass catchers. They're just they're one running back in 2. And so you're kind of stuck with whichever one you got. Mondo's just showing off now. He was trying to upgrade at running back because his wide receivers are Tyreek, Jefferson, and Reed. Jordan Reed?
Jaden Reed, maybe?
Jaden Reed, there you go. Dude, you need an upgrade at receiver. Tyreek's not going to be good all year. So I would package like Tyreek and Jordan Mason for like a top tier wide receiver if you can, and that'd be pretty cool. Richie, I know you're short on time, so I'm trying to fly through this. Cool. Do I trade Amari for Debo or McLaurin, or do I sit on him? You sit on Amari, dude. Yeah. Are you kidding? Debo is injury prone as hell. McLaurin, me personally, I do really like Jaden Daniels. I kind of feel like there's a bubble burst waiting to happen, but that's like, I feel the same for Caleb. Like you're going to get ups and downs. I would say Jaden Daniels is probably going to be more consistent over the course of the season than Caleb, but they're both good and they're both rookies though. So No, Amari's probably the best name of that three at this point, especially if you give him, if you don't need him to do really well this week, if you really need a wide receiver right now for the next 2 weeks, you can trade him for McLaurin and I wouldn't judge you. But for the end of the season and how the season will go, I think Amari Cooper is going to absolutely kill it in Buffalo.
Yeah. And I even like McLaurin and Debo. It's just that Amari's going to Josh Allen, and that entire offense got the upgrade. They needed a bona fide wide receiver, and you can say a lot about Amari. He is a bona fide wide receiver, and I say that about receivers that it's no small feat, because in our heads we want to put guys like either they're good or they're not. Bona fide number one wide receiver is a pretty big title. Like Alshon Jeffrey was a bona fide number one wide receiver. Hall of Famer? No. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But like Amari Cooper, sit on. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's a full-on number one wide receiver, and you just paired him with Josh Allen, who's MVP. So don't. A few more, man. We got a lot more to go through, but if you're short on time, we can kind of just hot knife through butter this. Texans, Packers.
We don't need to rush it too much. I would
second highest. Third highest over under for the week, I would say. Packers, Texans. Who would you sit?
I would sit Josh Jacobs. That's who I would sit for this game.
Okay.
He is a matchup where if he's against a bad defense, you can rely on him for at least 12 points. The Texans are pretty stout. They're pretty tough this year, and it's going to end up being a passing matchup. And maybe Josh Jacobs happens to get a receiving touchdown, but I'm not betting on it. So
I looked through the receivers of Green Bay, and same reason why I avoided them when I began with, I have no idea who's going to score touchdowns. And if you look at the touchdowns throughout the season, Reed has 3, Kraft has 3, Dobbs has 2, Watson has 2, Dontavian Wicks has 3. Like, you just have to start them because you're stuck because you drafted them. But this is the reason why I avoided all of them, is because I don't know which one week to week will get me anything, and they were all being taken way too high. So if you have one at this point, you're stuck with starting them because they might score. But it is what it is. At this point, you have them. Josh Jacobs is a yardage machine. He's not a touchdown machine. So that's where your problem comes in with Josh Jacobs. So I kind of agree with you. On the offensive side for Texas, all the running backs are mediocre. And I think Houston is getting this credit for being this juggernaut at 5-1. And then, like, you say the same thing about the Bears being bad because they've only played bad teams. Texas has not played really anybody yet. Houston. So they're 5-1. They're pretty good. As of right now, their wins are against Jacksonville. They beat Buffalo, which is good. They got smashed by Minnesota. They beat Chicago, whatever that's worth, in week 2. They beat New England. And so, like, are they good? I don't know. Probably, but I can't say for sure. So that's kind of how I feel about Texas. Their stats kind of are very balanced as well, and that's what backs that up too. CJ Stroud's great. He's not top 10 right now in the season. The receivers are good. Nico Collins is still their top receiver, and he's been injured for a whole game. Stephon Diggs, you got to start him because you got to start him. Tank Dell, you got to start him because you got to start him. And then their running backs are a whole separate mess. You got to start Joe Mixon because you probably spent a lot of draft capital on him. And then Dameon Pierce is going to now probably vulture some touches because they're both healthy at the same time. So same thing with Texas, Houston. Unfortunately, I think Green Bay is going to dominate them, but I don't want to think that way because I want the Packers to lose every game. I don't know. I have no idea what to make of Houston.
When it comes to the Packers wide receiver, I would say the most ideal situation you could have is having Jaden Reed in your flex position, because he's going to produce something, and there's a chance he gets a touchdown or two. Like, it's pretty nice. That. And the Packers do spread the ball around, though. Really, that's their game plan, is to spread the ball around. So, yeah.
Moving to the next game, Dolphins Colts. I mean, people keep telling me Devon Achane is awesome, and he has 3.3 yards a carry and less than 200 yards in the season.
I think he's injured right now too. Achane.
Is he injured on top of everything? He is injured.
Double check
so
that.
Jalen Wright, he is injured. You're correct. I just found that. Non-contact jersey on Monday, meaning he's probably not playing Sunday if he's not even wearing pads. Jalen Wright's probably a good starter just because you probably got him for free. So if you need him, you can start him. Tyreek's not a start. Jalen Waddle's not a start. Nobody's a start on Miami, in my opinion, even against the Colts. I think the Colts are exactly what they are. They're a 3-3 team. On the Colts, I go back to Joe Flacco over the last 3 weeks. Has 7 touchdowns, 1 interception. The dude's like keeping up on pace with the guys that we're talking about, like Joe Burrow and Josh Allen. Like legitimately, he's 70% passing. Statistically, Joe Flacco just still is that guy in less than 3 games. So it is what it is. Jonathan Taylor's your big start. Trey Sermon is actually a kind of a touchdown vulture, so you might want to shoot him in there. And then Alec Pierce, Michael Pittman Jr., and Josh Downs are all start him if you got him, because Joe Flacco's a good ball distributor and everybody's getting the ball. So, go for everybody on the Colts. I don't think you can argue with results.
Yeah, I basically second all of that, assuming Jonathan Taylor comes back from injury. Joe Flacco, my theory on him is that he was usually like the 8th to 10th or 11th best QB in the previous amazing QB era that we had, maybe the 8th best. And then with all them gone, now he looks like one of the best because it's just a bunch of young guys. Like he's one of the top 3 or 4, And so actually,
is he not the best backup in football at this point?
Yeah, no kidding, 100%.
Like, is there anyone else?
He's putting together a good resume now. So yeah.
Yeah. Lions, Minnesota. David Montgomery is the guy that everybody thought Jahmyr Gibbs was going to be. So if, he has 6-7 touchdowns this season, Jahmyr Gibbs has half of that. But yet again, they all split carries. They have almost identical amount of carries, almost identical amount of yards. On the receiving side, you have Jamison Williams with 3 tutties, Amon-Ra with 3 tutties. Everybody else has like 1. Same problem that we've had. Jared Goff is the only consistent player on this team in terms of fantasy. And then you have to start Montgomery or Gibbs because you don't know which one of them is going to go the fuck off because they run the shit out of the ball. But in terms of receiver, you have to start St. Brown. You have to start Jamison Williams. Neither of them are having that good of a season, but you can't not start them in terms of fantasy. They're both having good seasons. Fantasy football-wise, neither of them are like the number 1 guy. So Jamison Williams has more yards than Amon-Ra St. Brown right now. So it's unfortunate by a lot, like 80, 90 yards.
I'm glad for the Lions in that case, but yeah.
Me too. I mean, I don't hate the Lions, but it's just fantasy-wise, it was exactly what I expected. You just don't know who's going to get the ball that week, and the Lions are so creative that they don't care. They just want to win. So it is what it is. On the Vikings side, Aaron Jones, definitely. Ty Chandler, if he's not healthy, you got to start him. Justin Jefferson, Aaron Jones, Jordan Addison. Jalen Naylor has 3 touchdowns on the season and 150 yards. He's matching Jordan Addison in terms of production, and he's probably free. So if you have Jordan Addison and you like Jalen Naylor, you could probably pick him up, and he's going to score for you. So that's my Vikings take.
And you just got to monitor Aaron Jones's status. Yesterday, he only got limited work. He's probably only going to have limited work this week. And if he's limited all week, even if he plays, it's probably going to be they're not going to lean on him as heavy. So,
yeah. Tyrone Tracy, it's Giants, Eagles. Tyrone Tracy has the same amount of yards in 2 games. Technically, he's been playing as much and more than Devin Singletary because he's actually gotten touches, but now that he's a full-time starter, he's actually already surpassed Devin Singletary in overall yardage for the season. So Tyrone Tracy, if you got him last week from us, awesome. Cool suggestion from us. If not, definitely go grab him now. He is a legit starter. Otherwise, the Giants are just non-starters. I think arguably Saquon Barkley is the only legitimate starter. I guess that's not true. A.J. Brown's legit. Devontae Smith is legit. Goddard has a ton of catches and yards, but he's just not scoring touchdowns. So everybody on the on the Eagles who you think you need to start is probably still a starter until they collapse, which I think will be coming soon. So,
yeah, pretty much the same here. I know a lot of people that hate, a lot of Giants fans that hate Wan'Dale Robinson because apparently he has a couple crucial drops this season, but he's been getting usage in Giants land, just not very high yards per reception. So if it's a PPR league, keep Wan'Dale in mind. But yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, we got Las Vegas, Los Angeles. I think everybody on Las Vegas is a sit-em minus Brock Bowers, and I do mean that. The running back position is an absolute shithole. Alexander Madison has like 3 touchdowns on the year because he has to, because he's just a starting running back. Other than that, both quarterbacks suck. Backup Zamir White is doing less than Alexander Madison. He was like a sleeper. Jacoby Myers is the leading receiver, and that's not saying much. Maybe you just upgraded slightly with Jacoby Myers if you already had him, or if you just want to have a team's #1 wide receiver, get Jacoby Myers now that Devontae Adams is gone. But I still don't see him increasing his production all that much. On the Rams side, as much as I love Matt Stafford, the dude's having a dog shit season. He's got 3 touchdowns and 3 picks for the year. Receiver-wise, nothing really to talk about. Tutu Atwell, Jordan Whittington, DeMarcus Robinson, nobody there. Kyron Williams is the only legitimate starter on the LA Rams right now, and that is just a goddamn fact. So until Cooper Kupp and Puka come back, just run Kyron Williams into the ground. Otherwise, ignore all your Los Angeles starters.
Yeah, I basically agree with all of that. The thing that I want, Zamir White, he's actually like pretty damn physically gifted. It's just that he doesn't know how to run his own running scheme, and that's what Las Vegas is running. Like after a couple games, I was like, why are they still running him? Like something needs to change there, and they're just like running it. I don't get it. What are they doing? You know? So yeah, to me, Zamir White should be like a trade. Like maybe he's on the trade block, or maybe they hold on to him because they're going to fire all the coaching staff. Who knows? So yeah.
Right. Washington, Carolina. Everybody you think needs to start should start. Brian Robinson's an absolute stud. Got a ton of touchdowns, ton of yards. Jaden Daniels is a stud. Terry McLaurin's got a shitload of points and a lot of touchdowns. Nobody else on the offense for Carolina, Washington really does anything. Zach Ertz has some catches, nothing crazy. Austin Eckler is old, and I feel bad for him. On the Panthers side, Chuba Hubbard's good. I can't believe this name popped in my head the other day, and I had to Google like what happened. Do you remember Miles Sanders?
Yeah.
Miles Sanders was like the Philly Pro Bowl running back. He got traded to Carolina, and he just fucking disappeared. And he's not even relevant anymore. He's like 27 years old. Dude sucks.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Deontay Johnson's having a good year, and so is Xavier Legette. You can start him if you need to, but I wouldn't. That's about it.
Yeah, man. I'm not as high on the Redskins defense as David. I do like Chuba and Deontay, but yeah, that's about it. Pretty much everything else the same. But, yeah.
Yeah. No, Washington sucks for sure on defense, but I don't see a shootout here. Maybe we could be wrong. I would love that because I would love to play a Washington team on the ropes the week after. But I just don't see it. I think Jaden Daniels is legit, and I think he's good, and he's going to keep them consistent and beat bad teams. Chiefs, Niners. Chiefs, dude, just play whoever's healthy, man. It's the Chiefs. Play Kareem Hunt if you got him. Play Juju Smith-Schuster if you got him. Play Xavier Worthy. Play Travis Kelce. You have no choices. It's the Chiefs. Not much to add on that. You should start all of them if you need to. They shouldn't be your first choice, but most of them should be your third option. Jordan Mason on the Niners is really the only consistent player other than Juwan Jennings. And Juwan Jennings, didn't he have a 3-touchdown game? And guess how many touchdowns he has on the year? 3.
Yeah.
So everybody's raving about Juwan Jennings being this like fantasy beast week to week. He's just not. He's fine. George Kittle's great for touchdowns, but he doesn't have yards. And everybody who has George Kittle is starting him anyway. So there's really not much to add on that game.
Yeah. All that I'm worried. Like Kansas City does have a tough defense for Jordan Mason. I wouldn't rely on him like a number 1 running back, but he's probably going to get at least 10 points though, or 12. Yeah.
So. No, Jordan Mason's a week to week. You got to start him, I think. Jets, Steelers. Man, I think the Jets just suck, and I think Aaron Rodgers is kind of washed up. He has decent stats on the year, to be honest with you. But the Jets are just too confusing, and usually when a team fires their coach, the next game they're either going to be huge, and hyped, and have a big uptick, or if they stay the same, it's because the coach was never the problem, and this team just kind of fucking sucks. And they had no change, and this team just kind of sucks. I don't see Devontae Adams making a big difference in week 1. Maybe I'm wrong. And with this, Garrett Wilson becomes even harder to start. Lazard has by far the best stats on the team, and it's Alan Lazard. What can you say? Like, I don't know. I have no idea about the Jets. Start them at your own risk. I just don't like them. And on the Steelers side, did we get a confirmation that Russell Wilson is being the starter this week?
No.
Is that confirmed? I saw that on Twitter, but I don't know if that was accurate.
That's probably not accurate.
Okay, so if that's not accurate, everyone on the Steelers is a start at your own risk because George Pickens is the leading receiver and he has shit stats. So Justin Fields is the only legitimate fantasy starter. Najee Harris sucks. No touchdowns. Very average. Fields has more yards, more touchdowns than all of them, rushing and receiving, or rushing and passing. So it is what it is on that side. Anything to add on that one?
So
the Jets are just like coin flip. I don't know.
The actual news that I'm reading is that Russell Wilson is in consideration to start for the Steelers. That's what, and he's getting like some starter reps in practice. So that's just a situation to keep an eye on for sure.
Yeah, and that's what I read. And if he ends up getting the start, I'd be much more comfortable starting pass catchers on Pittsburgh than I would with Fields. We've seen Fields. We know Fields. He's just not a receiver-friendly quarterback unless that receiver is DJ Moore. And that's about it. Yeah. This guy right here, Bot 098. Okay, cool, Bot. Garrett Wilson, Pat Freiermuth, and Raheem Mostert for DK and Ferguson.
See.
It's a good trade.
I suppose DK could be a buy low candidate because you need to have a reason to expect Seattle to do better. Though I don't have a reason to expect Seattle to change in the middle of the season. Their offense to change in the middle of the season. It's like
DK's throwing tantrums too, so I don't know what to say about that.
Yeah, and then Ferguson, he's been solid this year. So
I don't see if there's any issue with Dallas. I don't think it's the offense, and as Dallas's defense gets better, I think Dallas is also a sell low team because Dallas sucks the same way every year, but I don't see that being an issue for Jake Ferguson. On the other hand, Garrett Wilson, I don't know what to say about, with Devontae Adams, he's either going to vulture everything away from him or he's going to open the field up more for Garrett Wilson.
I think he's opening the field up. And also, I just like Mostert. I think Mostert's my favorite player in this trade, and I just keep Mostert. Yeah.
I feel like he was almost irrelevant. And Pat Freiermuth's not bad. All tight ends suck this season. I don't think you're upgrading tremendously from Freiermuth to Ferguson. And if Russell Wilson does eventually start, which he will, Russell Wilson's always been a tight end friendly quarterback. So I would say do not make that trade. DK is not a huge upgrade right now. You'd be buying low. And I think Garrett Wilson is just as considerable as a starter as DK. Freiermuth, I don't know enough about Mostert to say yes. Richie likes Mostert, so I'm going to defer to him. I know he's hurt, and I know Miami sucks. But I don't think you're upgrading tremendously with DK and Ferguson. Personally, I'm going to say it. I'd do that trade. I like DK and Ferguson, but I also own DK. And I also do have Jake Ferguson. So this is a personal thing. You'd basically be trading for players that I like and I have on my fantasy team. I don't have Garrett Wilson, I don't have Freiermuth, and I don't have Mostert. So that's why I would say do it, but I'm literally just giving you a completely biased personal opinion rather than knowing much about Raheem Mostert playing anytime soon. 2 more games real quick, Richie, because I know you got a Jet.
Just real quick. Mostert's my favorite. A-Chain's injured right now, still injured. And Mostert had 19 carries last week, and he got a lot of yardage on them. So just do it. To me, hold on to Mostert. Mostert's the best player in that trade. But me and David, I don't think we're butting heads too hard on this. I think either of us it's very close considerations, So, yeah.
Yeah, you swung me on the Mostert stats because I thought Mostert was just straight up not playing. So that's an ignorance thing on me. Keep Mostert running back is the tiebreaker here, and Mostert's very valuable. So, yeah, I'm going to go Richie on that one. I defer to Richie. Ravens and Bucks. Ooh, I think the Bucks are mediocre as hell. But Baker Mayfield is legitimate an MVP candidate this year. This guy's got 15 touchdowns and 5 picks and 1,500 yards. Dude's an absolute stud. Bucky Irving is your starting running back at this point. I wouldn't feel comfortable starting anybody else in the backfield. So get rid of Rachaad White if you haven't already. He's injured anyway, but Bucky Irving's your starter. You have to start Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. Got a little marbly there. They're just automatic starts. You just have to. Regardless of the defense, the Ravens, I think this is probably the best bet of the week to be a shootout of any game in the NFL. I think the Ravens will run right through the Bucs, and I think the Bucs are going to pass all over the Ravens. Week to week, start them, and this game, start them. You can't. I don't have anything to adjust on the Bucs. You got to just play everybody that you have there.
I basically second all that with the footnote that Mark Andrews, I'm so happy he got a touchdown last game. Like, I'm so happy he's getting that little bit of usage. He's getting a little bit of usage, So I'm wondering what the hell happened at the beginning of the season where just like 3 or 4 straight games, no looks, I'm hoping they work him back in because he's 28. It's not like he suddenly started sucking at football. Like, what the hell is going on?
Is he only 28? Mark, 28 years old? He feels...
He's 29. My bad. He's 29.
So, I mean, that's still pretty young. He just feels old. He might have fallen off a cliff. Yeah. Rashad Bateman is slowly and quietly a very good wide receiver too right now. He's got 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. And I think that's not going anywhere just because of the style of offense that Baltimore runs. And you're a Zay Flowers injury away from Rashad Bateman being an absolute ball dominant wide receiver on the Baltimore Ravens. So just keep an eye on the Rashad Bateman thing. But otherwise, yeah, nothing changes with the Baltimore team. Start Derrick Henry because you have to. Lamar's taking all the other touchdowns. Justice Hill does barely touch the ball. But when he does, he's productive, and he is their main pass catcher. Guys their 4th leading receiver. So Justice Hill is just like a great flyer. He's probably available in your leagues. That's one of those names that we talk about injury-prone running backs. I don't think Derrick Henry is necessarily injury-prone, but I don't see Baltimore falling off a cliff if Derrick Henry gets hurt because they're just going to run Justice Hill, and he's going to get all those stats that Derrick Henry would. If you need a backdoor stash on a running back, go pick up Justice Hill and just stash him on your bench. I'm probably going to go do that right now after this episode because I do need a backdoor stash on a running back. And then last game of the week, Chargers-Cardinals. Both teams just kind of are weird and not that good. They're mediocre.
Sorry, go on.
No, yeah. Kamani Vidal, 4 carries for 11 yards on the season.
I don't think that's updated. Or maybe he has some receptions. Let me see this.
Kamani Vidal had 2 catches for 40 yards and a touchdown. So he did. Okay. Maybe it was screens.
He got a touchdown. Screens. He got 40 yards on it. Yeah.
So he got some points for you for sure.
He got 6 touches though. Okay, I just wanted to keep that name in there in case J.K. Dobbins goes down next because Gus Edwards is down right now.
And J.K. Dobbins is made of glass, so I don't think you're wrong there.
Yeah. But assuming J.K. Dobbins doesn't get injured this game, I think he's a good start. Hopefully in your flex position, and
the receivers are just too inconsistent. Ladd McConkey was their leading receiver, and he got knocked out of the game for a minute. And I don't know if he's uninjured. I don't think he is, but he got injured for a minute. I was watching that game, and then he came right back. But he's only got 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. Quentin Johnson had a flash. Nothing relevant there. I believe Marvin Harrison's out for the week, if I'm not mistaken.
I was reading this chat. Who's out this week, if you're not mistaken?
Marvin Harrison. He's injured.
Yeah.
So he's got but it's all concussion stuff. So if he comes back and he's healthy, we know how the NFL feels about concussions. They don't really care. He's going to play. His snaps are not going to be limited. I do still love your suggestion from last week. Michael Wilson, even if Marvin Harrison's in the game, is probably a damn good start. And if Marvin Harrison is injured, Michael Wilson is an absolute start. So stick with that. James Conner, dude, back to the guys who were asking us about fantasy for, trades. James Conner's got 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. and he's got 88 yards catching and 12 catches for the season. James Conner is like one of the most consistent fantasy running backs in the NFL. If you got him, don't just give him away for nothing. And then Kyler Murray is always your must start because he's Kyler Murray, and he could have 400 yards and rushing for 100, or he could have 200 total yards and do nothing. So that's I think the week.
Yeah.
Rate my trade. Nathan Taylor, we're going to rate your trade, and we're going to log out. Devontae Adams for Devontae Smith and Brian Roberts Jr. You probably won that one. I would give that a solid 8 out of 10. I just don't believe Devontae Adams is just because he's reunited with Aaron Rodgers is going to just all of a sudden be the stud. I think they're two divas that think that they are trying to recapture their glory days. And both of them are older and less talented and on a shittier team with a shittier offense. So I don't think you're going to see this like crazy top 10, top 5 wide receiver production from Devontae just because he reunited with Aaron. That's just my bias, but I also don't like Aaron Rodgers and I don't like Devontae Adams. Devontae Smith has been super solid for the season. He's not going anywhere. And Brian Robertson Jr. has been one of my favorite fantasy running backs of the season. So you went for 2 legitimate starters for 1. And I think you won.
Well, I differ from David on this one. I think Adams still is going to put up some 25-point games this season. Maybe not as consistent as his prime years, but he still. I think he can still win you some weeks. So I'm still high on Adams, but also Devonta Smith and Brian Robinson Jr. If you have no depth on your team, if you just need players on your team, I think you take Devonta Smith and Brian Robinson Jr. If you are still in the hunt, I think you want Adams. That's just me, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to need to see it from Devontae Adams. Those are 2 whiny crybabies who I think the Jets are gonna be 2-6 by week 8, and they're just gonna be like, "What do we do? Nothing's working." Like, yeah, like, of course not. This team. You guys are just a bunch of divas. So, Richie, thanks for your time, man. I know you got a jet, and thank you everybody for watching. This episode even went longer than I expected it to, but that's okay. Thank you for watching, and we will be back next week. Take care.
Take care, guys.